But now I'm going to jump it over. George, I want to chat with you because we're chatting Suravasa rework.
Oh yeah.
So
Also New
Flashpoint,
Junk City rework. So walk me through
Flashpoint
the
reworked.
philosophy that like you and the team
And
had behind
Suravasa is
Overwatch and
the
Flashpoint
map right
maps
behind them
and
right now, and it looks like this part's already been
So we
reworked.
really wanted to tackle Suravasa and New Junk City with our new map Atlas. We learned a lot of new things, and just watching how people play and knowing that people don't like that. Like, unfortunately, people don't like the map and mode as much as we want them to, and so
Right.
we like looking at it, like
It
really
was their
understanding
first
what
run
people want, like
with
what we can improve
Flashpoint.
upon.
I think
And
they even
so
removed
we
it
were
from
trying to
comp
make
too
it
because
just much more
people didn't
clear,
enjoy it
like
as
how
much.
people can get to points. So we have this philosophy of we want to make much more grand entrances. And so, as you'll see, as we do the fly-throughs later on, everything's just much more in your face. It's much easier to tell where to go. We want much less snaking throughout the map. We just want you to know where to go, and we don't want you to get lost in the map. So we're
It's very
really,
easy to
really,
get
really
lost on
working
those
on just
maps.
making everything
Even
have
if you know what
much
you're
more
doing.
clarity and minimizing everything. Just have players get to the point. We want you to fight on the point. And yeah, so basically I can show when we do the fly-throughs, there's a lot of little like level design tricks and art tricks that we're doing to improve upon it. But I think you'll like it a lot.
So going into the first one, like Suravasa, what were the important things on that map in particular compared to some of the others?
So we actually, for the most part, like how Suravasa plays.
Right.
relative
I've always
to
enjoyed
New Junk
Suravasa
City.
over New Junk City.
For the most part, it's a map that people like more. And so essentially we changed, or I changed half the map. And so essentially there's a lot of awkward like nooks and crannies that people could kind of like split up from their team. There wasn't like clear, obvious paths. And so just simplified a lot of geometry, just made it much more clear where you're supposed to go. And then just removed a lot of line of sight blockers that would confuse players. And another thing we're trying to do is we want to increase the identity of each of the control points. Because sometimes things blend together.
I'm guessing it's going to be way more open.
Before and after shot we have. So for here in particular, this was a bad choke point that a lot of teams would fight at and die. And so it was really hard to push onto point here. And so one thing I did is basically I just opened it up. Just want to open it up much more for the player.
More flexible
rotation.
rotation.
We want you to get the point. We want you to fight over there. I don't want you to fight right here.
Exactly.
And then also it's just nice because it frames the tempo much better. And so there's things like this where it's just like it's much easier to see where you're going.
So practically they removed the wall from the stairs.
That's what we're really, really trying to
and then
push,
they added it to
the reworks.
The railing section.
Yeah, because you talked earlier about like
this place is terrible. This is practically a spawn point when you come out. Like there wasn't really even a purpose of this.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping this whole section's completely gone.
Kind of in your way, people kind of can get when they're moving around it towards point. People kind of get lost and people split up around it. And this is right outside the spawn room. And so this is the before where you can't really see what's going on. And removed it basically made a recessed area where it still has a decent line of sight covers to protect you. It's a little harder to like spawn camp the spawn point, but essentially the wall right there, it used to parallel with the pavilion, and essentially I angled it so it faces the spawn point. So right when you're leaving the spawn point, you know exactly like, oh, that's where it's going. It's like it's facing me. It's greeting me.
Oh, that wall right there. I see.
You don't have to get stuck or split up.
It's exactly
so that's kind of the philosophy of like I want
parallel
you to see
to the spawn
where
point
you're
is
going
the
from, like, further
archway
away.
with the glow on it.
Figure out where you are or where you're going.
I was trying to understand what he was saying there.
That entrance to the ruins point now just feels like a lot more attractive. It's like,
and that's what we're looking at exactly right behind them at the moment. The point they were just showing.
Not gonna lie, I did not know there was a health pack there until this week we've been going through.
I knew there was a health pack there, but
that's useful.
I think it's a mini.
I think we're able to kind of fly through the map so that we can kind of see a little bit more on the different things that you've changed. Fantastic.
So
is this spawn?
Here's one of the spawn point entrances, and so this area, if you remember, there was like a big old wall right there, and so basically we still needed that line of sight blocker, like kind of just made a stepped wall, and this area right here.
So it's one wall instead of like two.
Square building that had like a door you entered into, and then there was like you like sneak around it. And
it's
so
really weird.
People would kind of get split up and like stuck in here. And if you're coming from the ruin point and going to the palace, people would split up from each other. So just really wanted to simplify this. It's important that we have a line of sight blocker here, just so you don't get shot from really far away, and then just for memory, like the further you see in the game, like the worse it is for the memory in your computer. So
I think that's also taller. They made
stuff
it
like that's
bigger.
really important. So essentially, just wanted to simplify this, make a single wall, and then I framed it with the trees that kind of incentivize, like, hey, just go through here. This is like
yeah, the trees are kind of
like
weird,
simple,
but
like
I can see it being
entrance
used
to
as
go
cover
through.
as well.
And then the trees are nice too because they act as like line of sight blockers from
that's
the
what
sides.
I was thinking.
Before we used to actually just have like a big, huge wall right to the left here, and by making it stepped, it feels like a little more organic, and you can see beyond it a little bit. But to compensate for it, basically like we added the trees.
Okay.
Yeah, I love how it's just a lot easier to see his mobility right out of spawn too. Like, you know, rather than having like snake through, if you have like just straight line mobility, it was like I didn't get the most out of that. But yeah, this wall getting knocked down just, I mean, as you said, like now you can see where the entrance to the other point's going to be. It's just a lot easier.
That too. You can see.
I don't think people really even know that's an area right now, like on live as much, or they don't utilize as much as we like may want. Because like it's just hard. You don't really put your head over to the left or right.
This little area right there kind of forces you to go the correct way on that left side right there that they were just showing.
So if we
which is actually really smart. Plus it shows you
this is
over
what we talked about a little
the wall.
bit before with the pavilion. Remove that, just like angled that wall to look at you, brought up the door frame, and then added that glow to it. So it's just like much more like, hey, this is the point. This is where you go. Because what would happen often as well in our playtest and just seeing what players do is when we had the pavilion here, people wouldn't use the side entrance to go to the ruin point. They would actually go all the way down to the market and then use that entrance over there. And that was like a longer run through. Or sometimes they go through a little door. And so basically we wanted to show players like, hey, this is like the closest way to the point. And we were like, really wanted this.
Really good, really good.
And one thing that, you know, if you look at the point right now, like you can see there's new vines there.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, so if we go over to the point, there's a new little flanking route over there I added as well. But yeah, we wanted to, basically people confuse these points a lot, like this and the blue temple. The other one was temple, this one was ruins, and so basically wanted to really push the ruin feeling. Like, again, this is
I love the
but we wanted
plants.
to just bring a lot more vegetation and vines in here.
Yeah, it makes it very
just kind of give it like a much stronger identity. Like there's a really cool like tree kind of.
I hope they patch. Oh, there's water in there now. Oh, that looks so beautiful that they just showed.
But
and I hope the roof is closed off.
People don't look up. Like in every game, people just don't look up. And so it's just one of those things where it's like a nice little detail that was like lost on players. So just
straight ahead.
So just bringing it down for like line of sight for players.
And if you kind of get a glimpse of there, if you actually go into the point itself, there's like water here now. So it definitely has that like feeling of this has been sort of abandoned in some way, or like it's overgrowth, right?
Yeah. And then one thing that I love,
the foliage on the stairs
we added
too.
A platform right there, halfway up the stairs. The stairs was just a huge death trap for people. You would just go
that's
down
awesome. I love that.
Blasted, and
they changed that staircase. That's the best change out of all this.
This route a little more, and not be forced to the sides. And so you have like a little bit of cover.
So it's still open up top too.
So it's just nice to kind of get in there and have a little protection. Or if you're like defending the point, it's kind of nice to just kind of get that little high ground right there as well. So it just adds like new rotation to this point that I think plays out pretty nicely.
Love that.
Yeah, this one's played out really well. I also love what you did sort of actually getting off this point though. Say you win this point, there's a new route that actually takes you to the next point over here on the left.
Oh.
It's like cave entrance.
Yep. Added
nice.
a little cave flank point here. So to go between the ruins and the temple point, you had to go back to the central market and then back to the temple. But between the gardens and the palace point, there was a cut through similar to this. So basically wanted to kind of mirror that to this side. It's more of a flanky route because it's like it's pretty tight. And you have two ledges next to you. So
I feel like that blue door right there should be closed off. That shouldn't exist.
At risk of
like I see the flexibility, but
taking the shortcut.
I'm not very sure they should have that
this
there.
has been a really nice little organic pathway we were able to.
Yeah, that one's really good.
Points.
So what about Temple Point? You know, we were talking a little earlier, and I think the point itself looks different now, like in terms of the trim being brought down, those details. Right?
Yeah. So in addition to level design changes, for our artist basically did a pass on. There's a lot of little details that I'm sure there's a bunch I forgot.
I swear I don't remember those corners on top of that building right there.
I wanted to improve some art that they wanted to see. Like if you see some of the symbols, like the silver diamonds, A lot of that used to be at the way top
Okay.
of the temple.
So now they're
but
more
again,
visible.
It's like, why are you gonna look up if
Exactly.
you need to like worry about everybody on the ground?
So like all the Farah players and
The
Mercy
far
players
players will
got to
see
enjoy
it.
all that cool stuff.
They can enjoy it.
Now everyone can
so
enjoy
just
it.
like they brought a lot
That's
of the
funny.
details down so you can kind of see it a little easier.
Right.
And they just kind of updated some of the trim and some of the art.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
So there's a bunch of little like surprises like that through
That's
here
nice. That's
and
nice.
New York
It
City
gives
as
more of a
well,
central
they
point
just,
for
like,
that.
change up the art a little bit.
And what about fighting on this point or some of the routes, or some new flanking routes? What do we have here?
So this point, for the most part, other than the cave, is the same, except for at the entrances.
Oh, is that way bigger?
Where I showed earlier, where everything was kind of widened up.
I think that's. I'm
So
not
if
sure.
you go towards the corner gate and look towards the point,
know those walls are higher,
actually,
so-
there's a little flanking route I added
It's
in
kind of
there.
peeking right there with the lighting, right?
Oh.
Yeah, so
Okay.
there's a little flank route I added there. It's mirrored
Nice.
over by the ruin side as well for people to come in here. And if you go
That sucks. So yeah. Sounds back
towards
there.
the main gate right there and look towards the point. Yeah, this is everything that's like kind of been widened up a bit. Like the stairs have been pushed back. And
Okay,
yep, it's
that's good.
just
That's
much
nice.
easier to get in. Just wanted to like widen it up for players to not get stuck in there.
Yeah, let's flip the camera like 180 real quick. I think one thing here, if we just go
Right, because
forward,
this side, this is mirrored.
You used
and
to
it's
just
blue on this side
there's
and yellow
a lot
on
of
the other.
interference right here. Like people like kind of hold you. It's kind of hard to get through.
And I wonder if
because,
it'll be
even
blue on
the-
both sides
the
for
route on the
like
right
visually
is
for
pretty
yourself,
congested. It
Yeah.
seems like that's a little bit more
depending on
opened
the
up too.
team. But
So how's this played out?
I think it plays a
I
way
love that
nicer.
these
Like, one of
walls
our
right there
philosophies is
are so
when
much
people
bigger.
get stuck in these chokes in these flashpoint maps,
I mean,
and
Hog
then
won't be
you
as
lose a team
effective, but
fight at the entrance. Like, we don't really like that. It doesn't feel great, especially
Right.
if the defending team has
You're
the
losing
point
the
and you're
choke.
getting percentage points and you're not able to even get on point.
right. Most of the
We
fights
don't
should
really
be
want
on
that to happen,
point
so
or
we
like around
basically
it.
trying to get a little
and
easier to push into point.
gatekeeping on the point on
And
the
since
choke
like
points
we
are not
widened
fun.
up that passageway as well, like there's little things like this fence right there by the pit was brought up just a little bit so people can't shoot you from point. And so we had to
I
like pay
appreciate that.
attention to like that's one of like the tricky things.
There's
we
still
need to pay
few
attention
characters
to
that can
in
shoot
level
from there.
design is,
Like
especially
Junkrat,
for
like
Flash
there's
Maps,
characters
you,
that
like,
can
wanna
shoot
widen
above
up all
it.
the choke points,
Farah,
but then by doing that you
you know,
have a lot of
Freysia.
long line of
You
sight.
sight lines.
Well, a lot of characters are still
And
able to use
it's
it
like a
ability
little
based,
push and
but
pull, making sure that you can't get sniped from.
that's
a
more. It's
mile
more
away,
poking at the enemy
from
instead of
opening up
actually
these
like
chokes.
completely
But yeah,
destroying them,
this,
which is
this
actually
is
really
nice to
healthy.
people get on the point much easier.
What other challenges were you trying to solve for with this map? Obviously chokes, movement, trying to keep people from, or
I don't remember
keep
the
people
health
from
pack
fighting
being there. It
off
might
the
have been
point, so
moved.
you're actually fighting on
That's
the
a good health
point.
pack,
Are there
please.
other challenges that you guys were running into?
Yeah, like
wanna
we
see the other
still
check
want people
points.
to have fights on the way to point. So
Absolutely.
that's what, like for this the recessed area here, we still like wanted to create like a fun little area you can fight around. You have things to rotate around and things like that. But we want you to be able to
And that health pack
ignore
being
that
a lot
and
more
get from
visible
point A to
as
point
well
B as
there.
fast as possible.
It's a lot more
And so
healthy.
it's just finding creative solutions of how do we get you there quicker and not have to snake and move around things, and how do we
Absolutely.
prevent teams from splitting up. And because before, one of the biggest things for this point was people would go through that little door to the left. They'll go to the right. Some people go past this, like,
And that's a
towards
flake
the
route
market.
up
And
here
so
for
basically just kind
snipers.
of pointing teams and like, hey, this is the route you should be taking.
This is where you should be going. This
Yeah.
is foolproof. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
If we could actually just go to the left here outside of it, one of the other things I really love about some of the
Yeah.
changes you made to Suravasa is a
I
lot of
remember
these
that
structures
being
are just
there.
lower now.
Yeah.
And then the archways are some of the
Oh, and
details
the
of
health
them are
pack thing?
higher, so you actually know where you're going from.
Was
a
that
distance, right?
the
Yep.
weird little
So
thing that they had where you were able to jump on
essentially
top of
this
it?
pillar used to cover the doors entirely of the market. So if you were by spawn, you couldn't really see the doors, or if you're coming from the garden, you couldn't.
Yeah, they
really
made
see
the doors
temple
bigger,
door.
and I think it actually
So
says
basically,
market too
pulled it all
now.
down, so it still acts like we still want it to be a line of sight blocker. It's important to us, but we brought it down, and then for the entrances, they're the same size,
Okay.
except for those arches have been pulled
yeah.
all the way up, and then
Good.
we added that like neon light to it, so you can
Yeah, the
see it
purple.
from far away.
Good.
And we did the same thing for both the ruin and the temple entrances.
Yeah, I saw
Basically
that.
brought everything up. You can see from further away. That was our biggest thing, is that people would often get stuck in the alleyways, and we didn't want people to get stuck and lost in the alleyways, and so just making everything like much have much.
And that's a
more
spawn
clarity
point
to
right
it.
there,
Not
that
just having
yellow.
to use like the global in-world waypoint to get to the
Yeah.
point. It's
And
like, oh no,
so-
here's like a here's where you are. Here's
That's
where
what
you
I'm
need
a
to
big
go.
fan that I don't like on these
Cool, let's
maps.
go
Is
onto
this,
market.
you end up going into the
Let's
spawn
go,
points on accident sometimes.
Inside.
So, I've always thought this point plays out pretty good in terms of there's some high
that
ground
centerpiece
here.
still there?
People
Yeah,
get
it
to wrap
is.
around.
I think this is like one of their best
Any new
points.
additions to this one in particular?
Yeah, we for this one didn't want to make too many changes.
Oh,
to
I think they
it.
lowered the
one
floor
thing I
here.
did though is if you go
And
to
made
the
it
side,
more
and
purple.
look at the boxes.
The boxes.
The boxes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Added some boxes for people to jump
nice.
up on.
Good. That's
get the
good. That's
point- You can
good.
get up on point now without having to go onto the staircase. Which
That's
it's funny because
really good. Tanks can do that too.
Sometimes the smallest change is like the biggest change, if that makes sense. Where
Absolutely.
This is gonna,
That's
like,
a huge
up the
change
flow a
right
lot
there.
for players just to get up there. Because normally
Especially
you can
characters like
stay up on
Ryan.
point, and if
Oh,
they don't
dude.
have like high mobility heroes, you can just like hang out
Yeah.
by the staircase and just kind of keep people off. But now it gives brawlers and heroes like that options to get up there, which
That's
as a
so
Ryan
good.
main, I want to
You
get
just
up
mentioned
there.
Ryan.
Yeah.
It felt really good. So.
Yeah.
I like that.
So, yeah.
All right. And then I know there's the thing up at the front entrance here.
Right.
Yeah, because
Well, ooh.
with changing
They
from
completely
having, like,
changed
high
it.
ground. So
Yes,
Walk
that
us
high
through
ground
that.
was not
this one's
necessary.
interesting because it's a
Those
little bit of high ground
fences
here,
are weird.
And so basically in old iterations, we try to make the high ground work. But if you remember,
Yeah.
there used to be a bunch of boxes that were
And
like
I think the health
awkwardly
pack's gone,
placed.
too.
And there are boxes because there's
it's
not
moved.
much room around here to give players
Oh, yeah,
clearance
it's got
to jump
moved.
up to a second layer. And basically we didn't really like how players were playing on it. It was
Yeah,
kind of
it
like,
wasn't-
some
it didn't
people
need a
like
second
having
layer.
that space and others don't, but at the end of the day, there's just kind of awkward fights that would happen out front. And so we wanted to just kind of simplify
Absolutely.
it all a lot and to get people onto point and have people focus on having fights at point a lot more than worrying about people up on the high ground.
Exactly.
So I know we've got 2 other maps, but I really want to talk about some of the stuff that changed in on the Palace point because we were talking
So they're
about
not
this
showing
earlier, and
everything,
This point is
I
super
don't think,
full,
but-
so.
Yeah, so
Hopefully they
for
do.
this
I would
one,
love to
this
see
is
everything.
nothing really changed for this from a level
This is my
design,
least favorite map,
standpoint,
or
but,
least favorite
this is an
point.
example of art coming in and kind of doing a pass over things. They added a lot more gold trim to the
Okay.
palace because they wanted it to feel much
The
more
fountain's
like a
bigger. You
palace.
can't stand
Made-
use it like you
it
used
be
to,
kind of
so
like
it's
a
a lot
beat-up
more
gold
blockage, it
fountain
looks
in the
like.
center there now, and it has like a gold flower. I think you called it an egg earlier.
I did, and it's not an egg at all. I
It looks like an
Gold
egg.
was from a distance. Yeah, no, that is.
I
that
don't
is definitely not
know
an egg.
how often
Yeah,
people use
just
this right
like
and
they
left
really
side
wanted
of
to
the
kind
point, but they're really
of,
healthy when you do
sell
use
the
them.
palace feel a little bit more.
Comes
Oh, is
through.
that a new?
That's really
Oh,
nice.
I'm not
Yeah,
sure
yeah.
about
If
that.
you go to the entrance and look at the wall, I like the wall.
Yeah, this is
Cool.
so weird that it has 2 different thingies there, but
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
they added
Oh,
this.
God.
Like it's just like little details like this
So
where they just
true.
like added a nice
the flags
really cool,
or the banners
like,
or whatever,
material
and
to it
the
to make it
gold,
pop a lot more
neon
than it used
light.
to be there.
And it
Really
follows
good.
that theme, like grand
Oh, they also
entrances,
changed
not just on
that-
the point
yeah.
itself,
that
having
as
those
well.
details that are they're more
That,
thematic, but you know
that,
from far away it's like, oh, that's the
entrance
point.
area, like on the
Yeah.
floor
It looks so much different.
where the
than
trees are at.
it's
They
yeah.
changed that too.
that visual identity per point.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I'm excited to get to Atlas
Unfortunately,
later,
those
so I can
doors
begin
on the
to show
right
people
where they just showed
the
are still
culmination
there.
of our grand entrances.
Fantastic teaser. And also just to call out one last thing with this last point, because I know Suravasa is
They added some color
one of
there.
the more liked on our Flashpoint maps.
Yep.
You were saying this one very light.
That's looks
touch
like
on
it's
the- on this
bigger.
point.
Yeah, that's definitely bigger.
Yeah, we didn't change this point.
Oh, okay. So not the lightest
Oh,
of
nothing was
play.
changed?
We like
touch.
this.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
good
they
flank
definitely
routes.
changed
You
it.
got like the edge there if you want
Oh.
to loop anybody off.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
like this. Like this actually has a really this is a good example of this has like a really strong.
No, they definitely
visual
changed that
identity.
one thing with
Like
the tree
people
on
know
there.
what this map, like this point is. The temples though, it's just like they kind of just blended together. So we just wanted to do that, just make everything have like a
But
much
yeah,
stronger
I think this
identity.
is one of my favorite
in
ones of
general
them.
for all of our points, and so we're trying to push that a lot. And a lot of that too is just like communication. If people are like, "Hey, let's go to the temple point," and there's like three
Three
points
temples.
of
Three
temples.
temples.
Yeah, so we're trying to solve that a bit by making everything feel very different for all the Flashpoint maps in general.
Very cool. There was one point that we didn't touch on in the philosophy earlier. So I think we're also exploring some logic changes to which flashpoint point actually unlocks next, right?
Yeah. So to kind of there's a lot of like it's a highly contested mode, and there's a lot of like people feel like it's unfair with some of the runback times or just how the logic's chosen. So we're trying something different. It's a work in progress still, but essentially how the logic works is if you win, so whoever wins the first central point, the second point will be loser favorite side.
Good.
And then
awesome. That's what it should be.
After that, we're getting rid of diagonal.
It's like crossing through the middle.
Yeah, cross through the middle. So basically what it'll do is it'll randomly choose between adjacent points, and then it'll kind of keep doing that. And so we're getting rid of a little randomness from it, and there will be you'll be able to predict it a little bit more, but we're just like testing it out a lot, and we feel like this feels a lot better than having the diagonal run across. It's
from one end of the map to the other necessarily
And there's always like a straggler on your team, right?
Yeah,
like they get caught, they're in Ana, they're behind you. It's like,
just from like a lot of research and like looking at players how they play.
It's really
a lot of
looking at the logic
people would have is like, for instance, for like all players, but some players would. I don't want to call. I'm not calling anybody out.
It's fine.
But,
it's fine. You can call me out. It's fine. It's fine.
But sometimes you win a point, and then a diagonal point would unlock, and then some of your team would go one way. Basically, people would like split up into 3 groups, which we don't like. We want people to kind of stick together. And then sometimes people, even though we have the giant like this is the enemy forward spawn symbol, some players would just run like directly across the forward spawns. And then get killed, and then your team yells at you, and then we're basically like we're just trying to reduce that.
It's like it's hard to know where you're going on those maps, so that's totally unreasonable.
I love it.
So
let's jump into New Junk City because I know that there was quite a bit of changes on this map.